Willoughby.
And hi, I'm Zach.
And this is the push episode of In the Zone.
We gotta push.
It is the 30th episode, and yeah, we gotta push to the 36th, and then eventually the Zonies, and
which will be the greatest day of all of our lives.
What if it's a total letdown and we've just been hyping it up so much?
Yeah. What if we don't do the Zonies?
The episode is called Stop At Willoughby. You can check it out, Netflix, DVDs, CBS, Hulu, etc. We are going to be spoiling the plot, so we warned you. It starts, we're at a meeting in this tall skyscraper.
Yeah, and there are all these other buildings that are kind of really shaped. There was one that really shaped. There was one that
in the background, you mean?
Yeah. There was one that reminded me of like a layer cake.
Interesting.
Did you see?
No, I didn't. And so this guy's hitting his hand with a pencil nervously, and so he calls on the phone, and he's asking for Mr. Ross, and there's this guy, the boss at the end of the table with the cigar. He's like, "We've been waiting for Mr. Ross for 34 minutes." And the guy, really needs to get Mr. Ross over there. He asks where he is, and he's like, "Well, bring him over if he's at lunch." And so he puts down the phone. He says to the boss that he's due at any moment. And Mr. Misrel said that he kept telling him that he should not have given this $3 million automobile account to this young man. The business doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah.
But it's not important, luckily. It's just business talk.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. The point is that it's his fault. He messed up big time. He gets a letter from Mr. Ross that says that he has resigned and he's taking the automobile account with him. $3 million. Well, I don't know what that means. The boss is like, "Your pet project backfired." And he says, "This is a push business. So
Push the table. Oh, nice catch.
He questions the guy's judgment in men. And he goes, "Hey, fat boy, why don't you shut your mouth?" And then he leaves. And then
there's a lot of fat people abuse in the last couple of episodes. Let's face it, Rocky was not nice to
Oh, right, he called him fat, so.
And fats.
Fats, right, that's, oh my gosh, this table is small as heck. His secretary, Helen, asks him if there's anything he wants, and he says, "Yeah, a razor and a chart of the human anatomy with all the vital organs."
No,
it's highlighted. Highlighted so I can clearly see which ones are arteries and which ones are just different kinds of organs. Please, take your time, but whatever.
He's not creepy at all.
Then he goes into his office, and it is just lovely lighting, and it's just him sitting there at his desk and zooming in onto his profile. And the narration says his name is Gart Williams, not to be confused with William Gart
from And When the Sky Was Open.
The narration says that he is insecure and he's working at an ad agency. So then we fade to black, I guess. Then he's on a snowy train. He falls asleep and he hears push. He wakes up and he goes, "That's enough!" And then the guy in front of him was like, he sleeps successfully this time. Wakes up in an old time train. And right outside, it's a town called Willoughby. And there is a guy on one of those bikes with a big wheel and then a small wheel.
Oh, yes.
And then there are two boys with fishing poles and their bare feet. This old conductor is there.
And he has strange sideburns.
And so Jack the Ripper is around, slashing people in the face, because we learn it's mid-July in 1888. And that's a town called Willoughby.
Fun fact, Jack the Ripper is actually not around slashing people in the face.
He should have been.
Yes, no, that would have been a great twist. Like he gets off and he gets slashed. and then he wakes up and he's like, the weirdest dream happened, and then he pulls open his shirt and there's
a huge hole, and then he sees his heart laying next to him going, it's like a little fish out of water.
That was a
darn it! Too bad. What a bad episode this was. Then he wakes up on the 1960 train. He's talking to the 1960 conductor, and he says, "Ever heard of a town called Willoughby?" And he's like, "No." Then he's at home, and he's talking to his wife, and she got a call from one of the people in the meeting, his wife, about how he did the whole fat boy thing.
The wives just talk about everybody else.
And he's like, "Did you wreck a career this afternoon? He's really good."
Yeah.
I think the scene is so good because their chemistry is awesome. Gart Williams I think he's a pretty fine actor, but I think he's definitely very good in this scene.
Who's better, Gart Williams or William Gart?
Ooh, William Gart. And he says that he got a call from Mr. Misrule saying that he is not fired. And that's good. And he talks about how he's obese and has a fat heart because he's fat.
Yeah.
And
doesn't seem like the best way to preserve a job.
And she says that she's sick and tired of having a husband filled with self-pity. And he said he would prefer a job where he could be himself and not pretending to be someone else. And I think this is a really cool monologue about how he's like, I wish I didn't have to live in this pretentious house and go to these country clubs and this rich house we can barely afford. It's very cool.
You might have convinced me away from my mediocre.
Like how he's like saying like he's trying to be someone, or he's expected to be someone that he's not, and he doesn't really enjoy having this wealth because of all the stress that comes with it. Super cool. So he wants to go to this simpler time in Willoughby. He says he would rather be in Willoughby. He tells her about his dream. And she says that he was born too late, and she can't believe that she married a guy who wants to be Huckleberry Finn.
Yeah, and we're all like, ouch.
Then he's on the train again, and the conductor says that there is no such thing as Willoughby.
I mean, just saying, who does that? Have you ever heard of a town called Willoughby? Oh, I went up and I looked up all the old bus lines.
He was up all night. No. Right. He said that he looked at all like the histories of like every train ever. It's insane. Super subtle, and you can see all the bags under his eyes, and he's like, I did it. There's no Willoughby. Won't have to worry about that anymore. The pacing is so good in this episode.
Yes.
And especially the order in which it's done, like business, train, home train, business, train. It's really good, and it's just good.
I'm gonna say it's good, but not great.
He falls asleep again.
It's definitely getting under an 8.5 from me.
He falls asleep again, and he wakes up at Willoughby, and he sees a gazebo, and you can tell it's awesome because the band is playing that old classic, Camptown Races, sing a song, doo-da, doo-da. Camptown Races, sing a song, oh the doo-da day. Someone's betting on the bobtail cat, I'm gonna bet on the hay. Super weird how they play the whole song, they do all 3 verses, and it's just a really long shot. It's like 2 minutes of the episode is just them playing Camptown Races. It's really insane. Yes, don't remember? And then everyone gets to the line and claps, and then they all look over and go, whoa, whoa, Camptown Races, sing that song. And then everyone goes, who's Camptown Races? Pow! Camptown! You don't remember? So he wants to get off, but the train keeps going. He's like, conductor, conductor! And then the conductor comes in, he's like, he called, and he's like, oh, nope. And then he says, next time I'm going to get off at Willoughby.
Well, the 1960s conductor comes in, and he's like, conductor, conductor, vaguely shouting in his sleep.
Mm-hmm. So then we fade to black. Then he's on a phone conversation with Misrule, and he's talking about how he wants him to aspire and dream big and push. And then he has another phone, and
he goes crazy with the phones.
They're talking about something else, and then his Helen comes in, and she's like, Mr. Misrule wants to see you, and then he's like, ah! Puts down the phone, and and Helen's like, Mr. Misrule wants to see you! And then he runs into the bathroom.
Helen's his secretary.
And then he sees in the mirror Mr. Misrule's fat head going, push, and then he goes, ah! And
that was such a good. Oh yes.
In the mirror. And then what's really weird is that all throughout this episode he's sick. What is that about?
He's sick?
Yeah, like so many times over the course of the episode you can see him going like this. Like in the meeting at the beginning, and then here right after he comes out of the bathroom.
Stressed and worried.
Maybe. He calls his wife and says, I'm coming home, I can't take it anymore. Please, won't you help me? And she just hangs up. Which is crazy, because like now...
What a jerk.
Now his life is just... What is he gonna do now? We find out. Ha ha ha. Gets on the train, and then he wakes up and he's Willoughby.
And he's like, I am getting off that train.
He gets off, and then he walks to the Fisher Boys, and they're like, we got
Hi, Mr. Williams.
I'll catch some more. I want to fish with you.
tomorrow. That's what he
Tomorrow.
says. Plenty of
Friendly.
room and plenty of fish.
Everyone's all friendly to him, and then we see a clock pendulum swinging, and then it fades into a swinging light because it's the snow and it's at night, and we see his body there. And the conductor's like, "Yep, he jumped off the train," shouting something about Willoughby.
And he
must have died instantly.
He spent all night looking up what
And he doesn't remember. He doesn't even make the connection at all. He just says,
Yeah.
something about
That
Willoughby.
was a pretty
Whatever.
big plot flaw.
I wouldn't say it's so big.
Here's the deal. They missed such an opportunity.
What?
They could have thrown a dummy off the cliff and shown his death, and that would be like.
And then anyways, they load him into the car, and then it's the end. Oh, but wait! The doors close and it says, Willoughby and Sons. Home.
Plot twist.
I wanted to start the discussion by saying, at first I thought it was really dumb first time I ever saw that, because it's like, what does that have to do with anything? But then I realized he must have seen it somewhere, and then his subconscious what is the term?
What do you mean?
When he's fantasizing,
Fantasization.
Really? Fantasization?
It's the official
Alright.
word.
Yeah.
That's the official word for the fizz in orange soda.
So his fantasization of Willoughby is like his subconscious fantasization of death.
Okay.
Because he connects those two things in his mind.
And he wants to go rest in death.
Right. And when you think about it, that old conductor guy is pretty much like a manifestation of death. Like the Grim Reaper.
What?
Maybe not. So there's a town called Willoughby, Ohio, and they have a festival every year called Next Stop Willoughby, and they show this episode in the basement of the library on a continuous loop, and there's a big festival, which is crazy because that's clearly something where like they made that festival before ever seeing the episode. If they had seen that episode, then they probably would have thought, oh, maybe this isn't a good thing to show on a non-stop loop in the library or have a festival devoted to. But they were like, hey, look, a Twilight Zone episode has Willoughby in it. Oh, let's make a festival. It's like having, like, if you live on Maple Street and they're like, hey, let's have this Maple Street festival. What do you think of this one?
I'm going to say that it was in the 6 to 8 zone.
Mm-hmm.
Good, but
In that
not
zone.
great.
Right.
Yep, in that
I
zone.
thought it was almost great. It was really good. I mean, no flaw. It's just so good. I don't think it's as good as some other episodes I may have given an
Well,
8.
first of all-
You know what? It's really good, actually. It's great.
Not a lot happened with what I feel like is not a lot really happened I don't know what. I feel like the plot didn't really develop.
So,
Like, he pretty much starts out stressed, then he sees Willoughby, then he gets more stressed, then he sees it again and tries to get off, then he gets more stressed, and then he gets off.
well, it's
Disagree.
obviously an arc of getting more stressed, and it's just really interesting, and the pacing is so good. I'm gonna give this. Oh, this is tough stuff because I regret some ratings.
What do you regret? Tell me something you regret.
You know what? I'm just gonna give this one 9.
9.
Pretty fine.
Okay. Well,
It would be a 9.5 if the performances were better or something like that.
but really, that's one of your flawless 9.5s. I feel like there wasn't really a flaw as much as it just wasn't that good.
Right. I get that.
Yeah. The conductor not recognizing Willoughby was a bit of a flaw, but I'm not going to take off points. I feel like that's not much more than a 7 for me.
Are you gonna give it a 7? What are you gonna give it?
Let's see, 7 and a nothing.
Perfect.
7!
7 it is.
And
Next time, the episode on In the Zone
Chaser.
will be The Chaser.
look at me.
Oh, look at you. Alright, see you then.